Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into what I call a thrilling intellectual detective story, one that bridges decades and entire disciplines. We're going to connect a really dark, historical, philosophical trap straight to the modern crisis of artificial intelligence and accountability. It's an absolutely fascinating journey about how we manage to protect human dignity when our very concept of knowledge is shifting right beneath our feet. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start by looking at the structural failure of Watsuji ethics. Then we'll move into the trap of AI optimization, the human role in the ideaverse, knowledge verification through category theory, and finally, how ethics protect individual dignity.
All right, let's jump into part 1, the structural failure of Watsuji ethics.
So, let's turn the clock back to World War II-era Japan and examine the renowned philosopher Tetsuro Watsuji. For our purposes today, we're really looking at him as our ultimate anti-teacher when it comes to intellectual responsibility. The duality of his life is just stark. On one hand, you have his deeds. He deliberately weaponized concepts like the family state to demand absolute selflessness from the youth, essentially justifying devastating tactics like the kamikaze missions. But then, on the other hand, you have his omissions. After the war, he cowardly burned the books of his heavy influence Martin Heidegger just to erase the evidence and escape war crime allegations. He sent his students to their deaths using these beautiful, poetic words, but then completely erased his own tracks when accountability came knocking.
Now, the really crucial point here is understanding the fundamental flaw in Watsuji's ethics. He demanded that the individual be entirely, literally erased for the benefit of the whole. It was a completely one-way street of sacrifice. And in doing so, his philosophy deliberately silenced the desperate, agonizing internal cries of grieving families, the very real pain captured in the diaries of that era. To him, the whole was everything, and the individual was just nothing.
Moving right along to part 2, the trap of AI optimization.
Now, I know what you're probably thinking. What on earth does a World War II philosopher have to do with our future? Well, think about the massive shift in how we verify truth. Back in Watsuji's era, knowledge was entirely human-centric. We could physically verify a scholar's deception by, say, checking their library or noticing what books they suddenly burned in the backyard. But in our modern era, responsibility vanishes into the black box of AI algorithms. The origin of a decision becomes totally decentralized. If an AI makes a devastating choice, who do we actually hold accountable? The creator? The user? The machine itself? It's a huge problem.
And that brings us to a frankly terrifying parallel. AI's relentless drive for societal efficiency and optimization really risks becoming a new, highly refined kind of totalitarianism. Just like Watsuji used the beautiful concept of the family state to erase individuals, an AI system might prioritize the greater good or societal efficiency, statistically erasing individual human pain as mere noise in the data. It is literally the exact same trap, just wrapped up in code instead of philosophy.
Which brings us to part 3, the human role and the ideaverse.
Okay, so how do we stop this from happening? To prevent AI from repeating Watsuji's trap, we actually have to completely rethink our fundamental relationship with these incredibly fast calculating machines. Enter a really brilliant concept from tech entrepreneur Amir Hussain, the ideaverse. Imagine a practically infinite, high-dimensional space where all knowledge and possible ideas reside. Now, in an infinite space, moving faster doesn't actually matter at all, because you can never cover the whole territory anyway. The true advantage belongs entirely to whoever sets the starting point and frames the initial question. There's this really powerful realization drawn from the Stanford AI report that hits the nail on the head here. It proves that we humans aren't actually competing with AI's speed. Instead, we are the essential architects of its ethical coordinates. Because the ideaverse is infinite, the AI is only going to find answers in the specific direction we point it. If we point it starting from a place of cold, hard optimization, well, we get Watsuji's trap. But if we point it starting from a place of human dignity, we unlock a completely different future. All right, part 4, knowledge verification via category theory. So how do we practically guarantee that the AI stays on that path of human dignity? Enter category theory. Now, don't worry, this isn't your standard high school math class. Category theory is an advanced mathematical framework that focuses not on the internal bits of an object, but on the relationships and the preservation of structures between different domains. Instead of just playing a game of spot the error with the final AI outputs, it acts as a meta map to audit exactly how the AI reaches its conclusions. It lets us track the entire journey of an idea. Let's actually break this down into 3 practical mathematical checks. First up, functors. We use these to mathematically check if essential structures, like human dignity, are actually preserved as data moves from input to output. Second, adjunction. This ensures a dynamic balance between the individual and the whole, preventing that one-way erasure that Watsuji demanded. And third, topos. This is what allows us to integrate local individual voices into global truths without just flattening them out into averages. By applying these concepts, we can rigorously track if an AI system is violently squashing individual diversity into a single, optimal terminal object.
And finally, Part 5, Ethics, Protecting Individual Dignity. So let's bring all this high-level math and philosophy back down to earth. How do we protect everyday human lives? The absolute biggest takeaway here is this. We must never, ever silence the local cries for the sake of the global whole. We humans have to continually act as the outside eyes. Our foundational role in that infinite ideaverse is to verify that the AI's final global answer hasn't sacrificed the specific local cries of real individuals purely in the name of mathematical efficiency. We have to be the ethical anchor in the loop. I want to leave you with one final, vital question to really ponder today. If an AI presents the ultimate optimal solution for society, and it wraps that solution up in beautiful, persuasive words like bonds or the greater good, exactly like historical figures did, can you spot the deception before the individual is erased? Because as history so explicitly shows us, the very moment we stop thinking critically, ethics quickly reverts to a logic of death. Let's make sure we're framing the right questions for our future. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you next time.